We've seen rare agreement here from Democrats and Republicans on this. How can you and your colleagues turn that into action to give the private sector the tools that they need to prevent this from happening again?
Well, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to take a look at this Colonial Pipeline attack and see that this is one in a long line of ransomware attacks that have faced our country. We've had attacks in hospitals and in schools, and now they're going to critical infrastructure. And I think this is a major shot across the bow to tell us as a country to wake up to the fact that cybersecurity is the preeminent threat to our national security right now in this country. And I'm honored to be head of the Homeland Security Committee for Republicans and leading that charge. And you look at the Colonial Pipeline situation itself, the company was attacked, not the pipeline itself, but the company shut down the pipeline to make sure that the attack didn't bleed into the critical infrastructure. But going forward, we need to do a stem-to-stern evaluation and a reprioritization of securing the critical infrastructure, not just from physical attacks, but from these cyber attacks, which it's such an important thing to do. And I introduced a bill last week or a few weeks ago to deal with just that issue.
And of course, you just called this the shot across the bow. Would you say that all things considered, this ransomware attack, of course, it did not have life or death consequences, but do you feel like this was the wake-up call that will prompt the necessary change going forward?
But now that they're standing in gas lines and people are acting somewhat irrationally with fears that there's not going to be fuel going forward, now they're starting to understand. And now they're starting to understand that we got to pay better attention. And I've had a lot of conversations with my colleagues on the floor of the House. And they're basically saying, you're right, we got to do this. And so there's many things we got to do. And one of the things we got to do from last year, we had something passed in the National Defense Authorization Act called the Continuity of Operations. And the administration is mandated by that bill to come up with a plan to ensure there's continuity of operations when there's cyber attacks into critical infrastructure. And we have to understand it's a threat that if we don't deal with it effectively, could metastasize. And we need to really prioritize cybersecurity going forward.
And lastly, if I might, as you just described, this is going to require legislation to deal with that. And what would you say to kind of offer some optimism to Americans who are saying, look, there's dissension just within the Republican ranks. Everybody can talk about bipartisanship, but are we ever going to see anyone reaching across the aisle at this point? Because it seems like there's so much division.
Well, I can tell you what, bipartisanship is the norm on the Homeland Security Committee. Benny Thompson and I have a lot of different views on a lot of different things, but we both love our country like everyone else in Congress, and that transcends everything we do in Homeland Security. That's why Benny and I are together writing the January 6th bill, and Benny and I are together going to attack these cybersecurity issues. And the administration is going to pay attention to it, and everyone else will, because I know we have to going forward. It's a quintessential bipartisan area, keeping our country safe.
Congressman John Katko, so appreciate your time coming on the show.
Happy to do it.